Well, we've had a Twitter poll up, as per usual, throughout the programme, and over 74% of you say yes, the union should be saved. Just under 26% say, let's scrap it. Well, we've heard from Wales, we've heard from Scotland. Here to give the final word on this conversation, oh, it's an army of the English, it seems, Dewberry and Colin Brazier. It's always an interesting thing talking about independence, and often we see this constantly through the prism of whether it benefits Scotland and Wales, how they would survive being independent. Nobody ever discusses extending the franchise to the English and asking the English, do we want to keep them? What do you think, Colin? Where do you stand on this?
Well, I'm one of those weird people, I think, Alex, who considers themselves to be British first, English second. I've got no attachment to the idea of an English Assembly or an English Parliament. I think that the 2014 Indy ref, which I think you described earlier, was won by a small margin. I'm not sure a 10% gap is a small margin, and I think it would probably broadly be about the same today. But I think what it was, and I think we've ignored it, was this great wake-up call for unionists, and I am one, who are deeply attached to this amazing union, which includes Northern Ireland, which we probably haven't reflected enough on during the course of those few clips we heard there. But I think government can do something, institutions can do something, government can send more jobs away from London, institutions even including things like the royal family could make sure that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge don't just make visits to Scotland, but they actually live there. They went to St Andrews University, they met there. Why not move to Scotland, live in Scotland, work in Scotland? What kind of signal would that be about the union? But I think individual Brits, people like me and you, have a responsibility as well. I'm often astonished in talking to people in England how parochial their worldview is. Young people who've never been to Scotland, know so little about Northern Ireland. We very deliberately, and certainly in my show, make sure we do plenty of stories from around the union. We did a series of pieces 2-3 months ago, 6-8 weeks ago, on the marching season in Northern Ireland, talking to a younger colleague who didn't really know very much about it. So individual citizens, individual Brits have a responsibility too. You can't just lay it all at the door of government or other institutions. If you love the union, you need to show that love.
Yeah, Michelle, are you British? Are you English? Do you think that we need to be love-bombing the other constituent countries of the United Kingdom so we all hold hands together and maintain this historic union?
Yeah, I do. I would like the union to continue. A lot of my family are Welsh, so I feel particularly a connection with Wales. But I am also, excuse me, I'm also full of cold, but that's irrelevant. I'm also very, very keen on choice. So I do think that this whole conversation about independence or union is divisive. It's very ongoing. You know, we've seen referendums, you've seen the SNP, there's constant conversation, including today. Should we be together? Should we not? Look, if you want a referendum, have your referendum. Let's have this out once for all and then move on, hopefully with a future together.
And do you think that essentially, one of the views that came up, and I want to ask both of you about this, is the idea of a looser franchise of 4 friendly countries who come together on the big issues, but actually everyone sort of goes to sort of devolution max. Is that something that should work? Would that be regressive? Do we actually need to be going more for evolution or revolution?
Well,
Colin.
The interesting idea that you can ratchet back devolution, I don't think you can once the genie's out of the bottle. Once they... Could somebody...
I'm so sorry. Don't mind me, just carry on talking about the union.
Once, for instance, if you've given Holyrood the power to raise tax or deal with home affairs or deal with health matters, or you've made education a devolved question, as happened for the Scottish Government, very difficult to say, actually, we think we can do that better at Whitehall. That's not going to happen. So there are questions there about governance. You know, I don't think, when it comes to it, that people, if you put this to a poll, particularly of people, say, from Scotland, who now live in England, English people who live in Wales, if you did any kind of vote that took in people, the 800,000 Scots who live in England, for instance, and put the vote to them, do you want to see the union dissolved? I still think you'd get a huge affirmative. Bear in mind, Alex, who are the people who want to see this union fail? Unerringly, it's the enemies of Western democracies, it's the Russian bots and cyber propagandists who want to see this country weakened economically, militarily and diplomatically. And you do that if you start cleaving it into its separate kingdoms.
Well, Michelle, we're going to leave you to have a sip of water because you've got a lot of broadcasting ahead of you just now.
Thank you.